Welcome, everybody, to the Talk Bout podcast. Even though this ain't the podcast, this is Talk Bout That. You guys can follow us on Instagram, follow us on TikTok, and subscribe here on YouTube. Today, we are actually in one of the places that we talk about all the time. We are actually in the Rev Gym. But before we get into all that, I want to shout out Pendomar Power. They are the official home of Talk Bout. We aren't there right now. Like I said, we are in the gym. But today, we have the owner of the gym, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, Jamie Weaver is here with us. Our partner, Talk Bout and Rev, as you guys can see up there. You guys see in all the podcasts, all the gameplays, all the ads. So yeah, it's great to have you here, Jamie. Thank you for doing this.
It's nice to be here, doing this in my gym. So,
yeah, for sure.
Good to have you guys here.
I appreciate it. Well, one thing I want to get into before we get into like the gym and your journey through Jiu-Jitsu is I want to talk about the partnership a little bit. I just want to say, you know, I came to Jamie in, I don't know what month exactly, but it was a couple months ago, and I came to him about an idea of partnering with Talk Bout and Rev. We, you know, signed a contract, and here we are. And now we got an awesome partnership together, and it's been an amazing journey ever since. And we got a lot of big things. And the reason why I want to shed some light on this, and I want you to talk about it as well, Jamie, is right now nothing too major to the public has happened yet, but I can promise you in just a few weeks there will be a huge announcement between Rev and Talk Bout, and I just want everybody to stay tuned for that. So if you watch this podcast, you're getting spoiled that there is something big. I'm not going to get into any details until it's time to announce it, but I just want to say that. And he comes to you with this offer. Why would you do what you did?
Sure. Well, I guess my first admission would be that I'm old, right? I'm not old, but I'm older. I'm going to be 51 at the end of this month, and I think the whole podcast thing kind of passed me by. So I don't listen to podcasts traditionally. I'm aware of them, but I think as a gym owner, one of the things that's important to me is trying to be open-minded, and marketing is a huge piece. And I think one of the keys to keeping the gym growing and doing well is connecting with a younger group. And so I had you guys coming in here, and you seemed super passionate about doing the Talk Bout podcast. And when you kind of presented the idea to me, I just felt like it was a no-lose situation. It brought great exposure for us, having the sponsorship, having people kind of hear about the gym. And I felt like it would support two guys that are really passionate and gifted in something they're endeavoring into.
Yeah, for sure. Well, both Riley and I, to speak for ourselves, we are so happy with everything we've gotten. Super blessed to be in the position we are. You are a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt as well. You're the owner of this awesome gym, and I want to talk about a couple things. How did you get into Jiu-Jitsu exactly?
Sure. I'll start with a quote that I heard years ago, and there's different variations of it, but it was like the best time to start Jiu-Jitsu is when you're 10 or today, right?
Yeah.
So I think like I started when I was later in life. Like I was in my older than you guys are.
Wow.
I was in my probably around 36, 37 when I first started.
Oh, wow.
Kind of playing around with jiu-jitsu. So it's like a double-edged sword. Like you're really excited that you found it, but on the other hand, you start to regret, like, oh man, I wish I would have found this like when I was younger. Like because I really like this. I think I could have been even better at it if I had found it at a younger age. So, but yeah, so my first, I think I'd say, I went to a really small private school in Delaware. So we didn't have wrestling or anything like that. Really my main sport was soccer. So I played Division I soccer my freshman year, transferred, and then played Division III soccer at Messiah College out near Harrisburg. And I was in a lunch line one day, and they had a brand new wrestling coach that had come in from Lock Haven, who's in the Pennsylvania Wrestling Hall of Fame, Neil Turner. I had no idea who this guy was. He looked at me, was super friendly, and just said, hey, did you ever wrestle before? And I just said, nope. And he goes, would you be interested? And I was like, sure. Why not? Like I told him I was a soccer player. I had never really wrestled before. Did like a club in high school just to kind of get a little feel for what it would be like. And he was just looking for extra bodies. He was coming in at the end of his career to a smaller program, and they needed partners for their starters and stuff, guys to train with in every day. And, he said, you look like a wrestler. And I'm like, oh, you're built like a wrestler. I'm like, oh, okay. I knew nothing about it really.
Yeah.
So I came out, I started practicing with the team, and I absolutely fell in love with it. And it was another one of those experiences like, man, I wish I would have found this when I was 5 or 6, because I just really like it, and I think I kind of have a natural ability for it. But that kind of started me into like a grappling kind of pathway.
So you wrestled first?
Yes, I wrestled first at Messiah.
How many years?
2 years.
2 years.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yep.
Yeah.
I broke my foot one year. The soccer program was really upset because I broke it.
Jeez. Yeah, so you were still doing both. You didn't stop soccer.
No. Well, there are different seasons, but they cross over because preseason wrestling cuts into the end of the soccer season.
Yep,
so.
that's right.
Yeah.
Wow, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
Well, when you started wrestling, were you like, man, this is just a completely different thing compared to? I mean, obviously, like the sports are different, but just like the mindset.
I think there's something about wrestling that's just natural to, especially just growing up like with brothers and stuff. Like you just, even if you don't know what you're doing, it's just natural to wrestle. Like it's part of the human experience. I'm a competitive person, so when I started to learn a little bit, like I just wanted to learn more and learn more. And so a couple years later, I ended up studying one summer at Carnegie Mellon University out in Pittsburgh, and I was in the weight room, and some guys came up to me and said, did you ever wrestle? Like, cause I don't know if there's something about, cause I'm short and stocky. And I said, well, I actually did a little bit in college. And they said, we have this like MMA group here, this club. Are you interested in joining? Cause they were always looking for people to come. So that was like my first kind of very small introduction to jiu-jitsu. Like they didn't really know what they were doing. It wasn't a formal jiu-jitsu program, but they were using jiu-jitsu moves that different guys had picked up over the years to do some MMA stuff. So I got into that. Again, loved it. It just kind of kept me going, but I didn't know anything about jiu-jitsu really. I didn't really follow the UFC. I knew the UFC a little bit, but wasn't super into it at that point in my life. I was playing a lot of soccer still. Yeah. Played in competitive adult leagues for years. And then I moved back here from Pittsburgh at one point, and I'm in the local YMCA, and I run into my childhood karate coach.
Okay, so you did karate when you were younger.
I did karate when I was younger, and this guy was great, and I always idolized him, and I was like, we just randomly ran into each other. And he was like, hey, what have you been up to? And I said, I found this MMA thing out in Pittsburgh. I loved it. And he goes, oh, well, if you like that, you should come to our karate studio here in Kennett on Friday nights. We do jiu-jitsu, no-gi grappling and stuff. So I started doing that. Again, just loved it.
Got in the no-gi first.
Got in the no-gi first. Yeah, they didn't do any gi there.
Yeah, same with me, which Eric Naples was saying actually on the podcast when we had him on. He's like, it's a little bit unordinary to get into jiu-jitsu that way. Start with no-gi, but even you started no-gi. I started no-gi, and even Jamie started no-gi. So that's interesting. But continue, But
again, this was a karate school doing jiu-jitsu, and so, but I started to be like, think to myself, like, I really like this. I need to go find like a legit, no disrespect to these guys. I love them. I'm having fun, but I want to really kind of learn this. Yeah. So then I found a jiu-jitsu school in Chadsford, a Gracie school, and started training there at Delaware Jiu-Jitsu. And again, just really loved it. That introduced me to the gi. And that was a cool experience too. And there wasn't the head instructor was awesome, super knowledgeable. Jay, he's a black belt now, but older guy, like a doctor in his 60s. So I think the next really highest level person under that was one purple belt, and everybody else was blue or white. And I came in with my wrestling experience and a little bit of the jiu-jitsu that I'd done, and I was holding my own with the blue belts and stuff. So, but they would talk about like this black belt, Hagis Labrie, that would come in like once or twice a year to do seminars. Okay. And the way they were talking about this guy, it sounded like it was magic. Like, like you've never felt anything like this before. You can't do anything. And I don't think I'm a cocky person, but in my head, I'm thinking, I'm younger at this time. Like I think I can hold my. I didn't think I could take him, but I think I could make it hard for him. Okay. Or just survive for a while. And then the first time he came, and I got a chance to grapple with a real Brazilian black belt that was, real high level guy. It was exactly what they described to me. Like, it felt like magic. Like, I felt like I couldn't. Yeah,
he hit you with the like Houdini special or something crazy.
Everything he had coming at me was like nothing I'd ever seen before. Yeah, wow. And the light bulb went off in my head. And I think some young guys, it's either fight or flight. Like you either want to learn that, or you're like your ego can't handle somebody, playing with you.
Yeah,
like
and
you're
it's
a
so
baby.
and it's so interesting you say that, because when you think about purple belt to blue belt, for example, there is a knowledge gap. I would say there's also a time gap. But blue belts and purple belts can hang. There, you could get a black belt and a black belt, but if it's some guy's got 3 stripes on his black belt and this guy just got. I mean, there really is levels of the black belt, and I don't want to always bring him up, but like Eric even said, he's like, you'll realize that there is such a gap once you get the black belt. That's where there's a bigger gap at black belt than there is with all the other belts combined.
Well, I think one of the factors in that is, and that's very true, is that you can have a black belt that started training when they were 40 versus a black like Hobson that got his black belt at like 18, like at the youngest age you can possibly get it. So
think
he's
about
been a black belt for 25 years and I've been a black belt for 5. Like there's a huge disparity of just the amount of mat time and training and all of those kind of factors.
Right.
But, yeah, absolutely. And back, like for young people nowadays, I don't think they appreciate or realize like jiu-jitsu's really exploded. Back then it was not that
Oh
far
wow.
around.
No, it's growing. There's gyms all over there is gyms all over the place now.
Yeah. 15 years ago it was still kind of breaking its ground here in the US.
Yeah, for sure. And then when you do talk about all the belts and everything, you were talking about that gym. Who gave you your black belt?
Oh, I didn't get my black belt there. So So what had happened was I got promoted to blue belt almost immediately, just because within a year,
because of the wrestling experience.
Because of the wrestling experience,
within a year,
and that was the philosophy of Hages Labrie, the black belt that gym was underneath.
That's
he would come in and test. He felt like Jamie needs to have a blue belt just at this point. Like, and that's the only belt I think they would do that for, is like somebody with a lot of grappling experience and kind of picks up some jiu-jitsu quickly. They're trying to keep things level. They don't want white belts kind of beating all the other blue belts.
Yeah.
So they would kind of be
for sure.
The leveling field is kind of what was taught to me or told me. So so then there was a teammate of mine that had gone to a Hobson Moore seminar at Elite in Newark, Delaware, and the gym I was training at, which I loved, they only had classes like 2 nights a week and then on more of an open mat on Saturdays. And I was traveling a lot to Philly to do private lessons with some really high level guys, but it's expensive and time consuming. So I made a really tough decision to go try out this other gym that the head instructor, it was his full-time job. So they had classes every day.
Yeah.
And so I tried to do both gyms at the same time because I felt loyal to my gym, but that just wasn't going to work that way. So I ended up making the tough decision to leave Delaware Jiu-Jitsu and start training at Elite. And my other teammate was talking about this guy Hobson. Like, he's like, even among black belts, he's like, I've never seen anything like this guy. Like, he's small. He moves like a spider monkey.
And if people don't know, if you don't know who Hobson is, Hobson is in the IBJJF Hall of Fame. He's 8-time world champion.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's done it all.
Yeah, he's the man, the myth.
And the first time I met him, like, being a jiu-jitsu black belt should say something about people's character, but it doesn't always. And you have all different kinds of personalities and styles and body types and stuff. But I liked everything about Hobson. And so immediately, the first time I met him, he was very genuine, humble, super friendly. He tried to learn people's name, and it just felt real.
Yeah.
And I just felt like this was where I wanted to start to learn. He wasn't the head instructor there. He had started Elite, but just being associated with him.
Is that, and this is a question for him, obviously, in the future, is Hobson, did he create Elite and then turned it into what it is now?
He did. So Hobson started his associations in Brazil. I don't know how many
he has there.
Yeah, so he was winning, and it's an interesting story.
Yeah, you know what? It'll be for him, for sure.
But the real quick part of it is...
No, please.
There was a Brazilian woman up here that wanted to compete with, like, she had a falling out with her gym that she trained out and said, I'll show you. I'm going to bring up a world champion, open my own gym. And she brought Hobson up here. But she was using him. He didn't speak English. She took advantage of him. There's a couple guys that started Elite that were, that got lawyers for him and kind of got him out of this really bad contract where he was kind of being manipulated and used. And then I think Elite was their first gym that he started in the U.S., and it was very successful. Hobson's from Brazil, and living in the Northeast was a little rough for him, so he decided to move to Florida and opened up the Hobson headquarters.
Yeah.
So we did that, and then it's blown up from there. So I don't know how many
academies he has now.
but it's international now. So it's not just Brazil. You have Canada. There's one in Ireland. There's some in different parts of Europe.
Wow,
Once
that's incredible. And,
Yeah.
and we'll get into like how this became this, and I want to get to that,
Yeah.
but I don't want to shy away from when you did get your black belt.
I got it from Hobson.
Yeah,
so,
that
which
was probably
really
awesome.
special.
Yeah. And was that like when you got it? How did you feel? Well, because I just always want to ask this to people because I feel like it's different for everyone, and I
Yeah.
just want to know when did you know it was coming? When it came? Like what did you think
for me,
about it?
I kind of knew it was coming because I was a gym owner, so it was a little bit different. So, because there's a lot of organization that goes in behind it. But I would say like when you first start, like a black belt just felt unattainable. Like it just felt like so many years and just the time. And there's so many times where you feel like you're training so hard, but you're not making progress, and you just feel like I'm never going to get to that level. And then you just keep training, and then one day it happens. Right? And so it was an amazing feeling, but it's mixed emotions. Like you're so excited, it feels like one of your greatest achievements in your life.
Most emotional out of all the belts?
Yeah. Purple belt was pretty intense. Brown belt, not as much. But then black belt, again, probably was the most. But
What about when you got your blue belt?
No,
No?
because it was still new to me, and I didn't really know, and I got it so quick, and
Yeah.
I got it based on a lot of my wrestling experience. Now,
Yeah.
if I had started like with absolutely no grappling background, I
blue
think it
belt
would have
would've
meant
mattered
a little bit more.
Yeah.
But they're all special in their own unique way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I felt unworthy, like humbled by it. And they always talk about like the journey's just beginning when you get your black belt. It doesn't mean you've mastered everything, and then you're starting to get into struggling with aging and getting older. My body doesn't move like it used to. I don't have the gas tank that I used to.
Yeah.
But so you're finding these like adjustments.
You have to adapt. Yeah.
You have to adapt. Yeah.
For sure. When Rev became a thing, and we can talk about that as well. Were you owning this gym when you got your black belt?
Yes. Well,
Okay.
so
you weren't a black belt when you
no, it was
started
a
with
purple
Rev.
belt. So
Wow. Okay.
this gym used to be Defiant.
Right.
And so Mike Fitchett was Hobson's. Jeff Mitchell, who was at Elite, the head instructor, was Hobson's second American black belt. And then Mike Fitchett, they were teammates, opened Defiant, and he was Hobson's third American black belt. So Mike was a very successful chiropractor, and I think he was just getting older and didn't have the time. His business was blowing up, and he didn't want the gym to go away, but he also didn't have the time to put into it.
Right.
So he reached out to me because he knew me from Elite and had heard positive things, I guess, about my grappling at that time, and just thought like, hey, would you be interested in first partnering with me and eventually taking over Defiant? So I kind of courted that idea and eventually decided that we would do it. We thought we would remarket ourselves, so we changed the name from Defiant to Revolution.
Yeah.
So that's how it kind of started there. And we've been in different locations, and this location here was kind of always like my dream.
Yeah.
But it was too expensive and too big, but it was in the same facility that
yeah, because it's all been in the similar area for the most part.
This is the fourth location that
Yeah.
I've been in with Revolution.
Yep,
so.
and two of them were right here.
Two
right?
of them. Yeah, well, this
Right
is
behind.
the third. Right?
This is
Yeah.
the third, and the other two are right
Yep.
over there. So
But we always saw this,
I know.
and it was like, man, I would love to be in this
look
space.
at it
Because
now.
it is
So
a
this is the
big building.
it's about the best you can get.
But I actually, at one point, we owned two Revolutions, and one was in Kennett Square. That was the second one that I opened up with some friends, and that's where I got promoted to black belt, was at the Kennett location.
Okay, wow.
At a Hobson seminar. We had Hobson come in. He did a great seminar, and at the end of it, they did the promotion.
Wow.
The other gym isn't here anymore. Unfortunately, it didn't survive COVID
Yeah.
with the lockdowns, and but fortunately, we were able to keep Rev Nottingham open during
Yeah,
that time.
for
so.
sure. Yeah, was
Yeah.
that difficult? Now that you brought that up, was that a hard time?
Oh, it was so hard, and it's crazy to think that it wasn't really that long ago, but it feels like it was ages ago because we're just back to things being completely normal. But
Yeah.
we used to do like secret training set, like we just tried to keep people involved and engaged and allowed people to come in, and with people that they
Right. I mean, there's only
trusted
so much
that,
you could
know,
do, right?
like, yeah.
Yeah, that must have been. I didn't even think about that. That must have been a very interesting time for not just you,
Yeah,
but all
financially
gyms.
as
I
a
mean,
business owner, it was super stressful.
yeah, for sure. I
but
mean, you didn't know what was going to happen, when it was going to be able to be open,
no
this, that, and the
idea.
other. Huh, that's really interesting as well. So when you start this gym, now that you're the man here, this is your gym, you're the owner of the gym, and you teach 2 classes a week here. And one thing I want to ask you is going from a student to now coach, because now you have, I don't know, over 100 people, kids, adults, all different ages, all different sizes, all different backgrounds. You have them all in the palm of your hand with stripes, belts. How important is it to you to be a part of their journey, because you are really the guy who gives that to them when they deserve it and whatnot and the other?
Absolutely. I think that at some point in my journey, the focus, you always want to be a good teammate, but your personal journey is like the most important thing to you. Like I used to spend tons of time, like I trained 6-7 days a week, sometimes twice a day. I'd have mats in my basement. I have friends come over. Like the time I put in the mat time, like to get to where I was, and I was very proud of that. But I think when I took over the gym, I had to start to evolve of like where my focus was. And when I first started Rev, like I was teaching 5-6 days a week. So, but then you get students that rise up, and it's great to have them teach. This isn't my full-time job. Primary focus really has changed from my growth, even though that's still important to me, but this pouring myself in and what I know and the passion that I have and the experiences that I have into my students now.
Yeah.
And it's a responsibility that I take really seriously, of looking at each person as an individual in their growth. Because in jiu-jitsu, it's not just like you've gone to this many classes, you get a stripe, or you've come for 3 years, now you get a belt. There's a lot more subjectivity, and there's an art to knowing when somebody should be promoted. And it's not just, you look at every individual. Is this person a 40-year-old dad that is coming in here 3 nights a week, and he's giving up a lot to come in here, versus the 22-year-old that just lives in the gym because they have time to to train. So you're looking at each person and making a judgment based on, you still want the 40-year-old dad to have the right technical ability to say, I know that person's a purple belt, but that might look very different than the 22-year-old that's going to be promoted to purple belt.
So when you say there's an art to that, and this is why this is interesting to me, because I've never really asked these questions, like how much time, thought, what do you do to really know when it's time to promote somebody?
Well, I think it's really important for me. For one, I have other coaches here.
Right.
So, and I want to be open to always listening, and it kind of is a team approach.
Yeah.
I take everybody's input, but at the end of the day, the buck stops with me. I have to be the one. Like, I also feel a responsibility to Hobson and the RMNU Association, that when I give a blue belt, like, I know what it means within the association. It's not just Rev. I want Hobson to be proud of what we're doing here, and that if we compete or we do something outside of here, or how we act here, it's a representation of him as well. So I take that seriously and put a lot of thought into that as well. It's not perfect because it's an art. Like, it's not just an exact science.
Yeah.
So sometimes I think you get it right on. Sometimes you make some mistakes, but in the long run,
It
I
all
think
falls into plan.
it falls into play.
Sure.
And some people stay in a spot too long. Some people get promoted too quick. But then it starts to even itself out.
Exactly, for sure. I just thought that was interesting, the thought process behind it, because you really do have a lot of different students in here. Riley, when you came in here and you started rolling, what did you think about the sport? Because like you obviously watch like UFC. Riley and I, if you watched our podcast for the longest time, UFC. All we do. Yeah. Well, no, I'm not even talking about that. But I'm saying all I talked about was how he needs to get into jiu-jitsu. He needs to get into jiu-jitsu. He needs to get into jiu-jitsu. Then we got the partnership. Now he's in jiu-jitsu. But I'm just asking, like, you know what I mean? Like, what was it like for you? Because, he's talking about when he got into it, you had your wrestling experience that helped you.
Yeah.
You had nothing. You didn't have anything. So when you first got on these mats, literally,
well,
how was it?
The first day, you always get humbled, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
Like, super bad humbled. And then once you keep on going in, it's like, I don't know.
You start to
figure it out, and I like it a lot.
Yeah,
it's good.
There's definitely for sure levels. There's levels to the game.
There's levels, but the other interesting thing is you can't always judge a book by its cover, and that's one of the things that people from the out, like, I used to see this as a student at Elite, where we were in a college town. We would get these jacked up muscle guys coming in. They're college age, and they just think that they can handle themselves. And they come in and like
They
the
get
40-year-old dad
demolished.
bod just like destroyed them.
Yeah.
And a lot of them just, you'd never see them again because their ego couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
But I think what one of the things it teaches you, you're like, if you're out on the street, don't judge a book by
No,
you never
you
know.
can't,
Like that
man.
nerdy looking guy over there could.
Be a black belt in jiu-jitsu. You have no idea.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for
Because
sure.
I know the first day I went in here, before I went in here, I was like, I know I'm gonna get humbled.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know?
That's really
Yeah.
the approach
Me too.
everybody
Yeah,
should
it
have.
was-
it
And
was bad.
that's a good part of jiu-jitsu too. It's like, it's not just about being the baddest and the toughest or something, but it's like what that humbling does to a person's character is a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Let me ask you this question because this will be interesting. I've asked this question to every grappler we've had on.
Yeah.
We've had Chris on, we've had Eric Naples on, we had David Cox on, we had Eric Cooper on, we had them all on. And I want to ask you, gi or no gi? What is your preference?
For me, it's if I'm just gonna have fun, it's with the gi because the gi is a tool and the what you can do in it is so much better. But as far as like, I feel running a gym and when I was training, I tried to keep it balanced where I would do both. My focus class-wise may have been a little bit more on the gi side. I always kind of use it's like a bad analogy, but like it's like driving a stick shift. That's wearing the gi. Like if you have to learn that, but if you drive a stick, you can always drive automatic, but not the other way around.
Yeah, that's
So,
very true.
so I would try to focus on the gi, but then I had a lot of fun training no gi too. And if for what your purpose is or what you're trying to get out of jiu-jitsu, like fitness wise, sometimes I think like the no gi grappling, you're going to get a better cardio workout. Sometimes. It
Yeah, I don't know.
depends.
Yeah, it's tough because the
if you're
gi,
looking-
man, especially when it's hot.
Yeah.
It's tough. When we
Oh,
do our
man.
flow rolls on Tuesdays
Yeah.
to warm up, we're like,
But you can
I
get
feel like I
locked
just got
down
out of
in
the shower.
positions in the gi that you wouldn't.
oh, yeah,
in the
yeah, you're
no-gi.
sitting there
So,
for like 3 years. But
yeah. But I think if you're looking at it from a self-defense perspective, like both are important because you
Yeah.
just don't know. Like if
I
somebody
think
has-
on the street, self-defense wise, and people argue this all the time, but personally, I think gi is actually more. I mean, when you grab onto like jeans
yeah.
or a sweatshirt, it feels like you're grabbing a gi. It's like you can do everything in a gi with a
Yeah.
sweatshirt or with the jeans.
They're
or,
both fun. They both are similar and different. And I just encourage people to don't discount the other.
Yeah,
I think it's good to be balanced.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Doing
they're both
both.
good.
Yeah.
You like no gi more, correct?
Yeah, I like no gi more, but I think as I go, I feel like gi's gonna get better and better.
Yeah,
just like you said.
Yeah,
you-
because I didn't like gi at first, and now I love
And
it.
now
I
you like
actually
it.
prefer gi to like practice. I like no gi for competition, and I
Yeah.
like no gi for hard rolls
Yeah.
and like but gi if we're just like chill drilling,
Mhm.
I would rather have the gi on. I just
Yeah.
feel like it's slower. I don't have to be as crazy. Not a lot of gas.
To me, it has
It's
the
good.
more, when the people talk about jiu-jitsu as being kind of like a chess match, like I think the gi kind of makes that even more of a chess match because
Yes.
of what the tool that can be manipulated.
Sure.
My gi is my tool and my gi is your tool and vice versa. So you learn how to manipulate this tool along with pretty much every no gi technique. You can do those in the gi as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
So, but you can't do the gi techniques in the no gi. So
No, it's really
there's a
interesting.
lot more to take in.
Yeah,
so.
for sure. Before we wrap everything up, because I know you got somewhere to be, I do want to say there's a couple cool things coming up here at Rev. If
Yeah.
you guys don't know, Eric Naples is coming back here on Tuesday. So by the time this comes out, it won't matter. But Eric Naples is pretty much here every couple weeks. He's
Yeah.
been coming in on Tuesday. So
Yeah.
if you're not a member, it's $20. Come in, and if you are a member, it's for free. So definitely do that. And then Hobson also.
Yeah,
coming in
Hobson's
August.
coming August 4th, I believe.
Yeah.
And then we're going to do a big party at the Kern's house the next day. We're going to do some promotions that day, so we'll celebrate those promotions at the party. It's awesome having Eric here. Eric's on a world-class level now, but I have a personal relationship with Eric because he was a kid at Elite when I first started. He came out of nowhere. He was just a little skinny little kid. And I remember like I was competing up in the New York Open in the IBJJF New York Open. Yeah. And he was just really getting into jiu-jitsu and he said, can I come along? So he
Yeah.
tagged along in the car. And
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
now
become-
to see him
Oh, my gosh.
progress to where
Yeah,
he
him
is,
and
it's really cool.
both him and Chris have both became, real close friends of mine. So it's really cool to be able to have them here and
that's
have
one of the
Hobson
best
come
things
back
being
too.
an owner is to watch people's journeys.
Yes.
And have a small part of it. There's everybody's kind of I take a little bit. I'm a caretaker for people. I don't teach them everything they know. I don't.
There's a little bit of something that you've put into everyone that's here,
and you build the structure and the foundation for people to come in, a safe place, a family friendly place. I want a place where the older guy feels comfortable and safe coming in, or the young guy that really wants to be competitive can come in and be challenged. So to me, that's important. There's definitely gyms that are more competition focused. There's gyms that don't have the focus on competition. They're just kind of teach them self-defense. Again, my philosophy or my interest is really having a gym that is open to the most amount of people. It's that everybody feels comfortable and welcome here, and that
we definitely you have that here for sure.
And I have great people here, so that helped me out.
Yeah, great students, great coaches, great everything. And if you guys don't know, like I said, Hobson's going to be here too, so that's going to be awesome to have him here. Amy, thank you so much for doing this. Riley, as always, you got nothing to say, dude.
Huh?
You got nothing to say. Nah. Thank you guys so much. Hope you guys have a good day, and peace.